Hello everyone, I am the Bandit Kirby, and welcome to my channel, The Commander Tavern. The Commander Tavern is a channel dedicated to my favorite Magic the Gathering format. The Brewery is a series on this channel showcasing my spicy brews and other deck techs. On this Halloween special episode of The Brewery, I'll be discussing my take on a commander from Doctor Who, Missy. If you like this deck or any of the cards I'll be mentioning throughout the video, please consider using my TCG Player affiliate link when purchasing those cards. You can find that link down in the description. It'll really help out the channel at no extra cost to you. But the very best way you can help support the channel is with my Patreon. There are plenty of perks for being a patron, such as early access to certain videos, exclusive deck techs, gifts, and more for as little as $1. You can also become a channel member for just 99 cents. Show off your support with a logo next to your name and exclusive emojis. Or you can always just support my channel for free by simply liking, subscribing, and sharing, which also helps out a lot. I put out a video every Monday, so you don't want to miss out. You can join my Discord server for free if you want to join the Commander Tavern community. All pertinent links are down in the description. Alright, let's get back to the episode. Missy is a 4/5 Time Lord Rogue for 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 black, and 1 red. She has 2 triggered abilities. The first one happens whenever another non-artifact creature dies. When it does, you return it to the battlefield under your control as a face-down 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. While you're not directly stealing an opponent's creature this way, being able to do this as many times per turn and whenever it happens opens the doors to a ton of shenanigans, especially combos and easily assembling engines and synergies. Her second triggered ability happens at the beginning of our end step, where each opponent chooses to either take 1 damage for each artifact we control, or we draw a card and chaos ensues. Unfortunately, if you're not playing Plane Chase, this will do nothing, unless your playgroup lets you rule 0 seek Bolas's Council, and you're lucky enough to planeswalk to Pools of Becoming. So we'll essentially be sticking to her first ability for now, and the combo potential it has. That being said, with enough Cybermen on the battlefield, opponents might rather you draw the card than burn them. Although I mentioned earlier that Missy helps us steal creatures, albeit as 2/2 Cybermen, there are ways to circumvent this and have the creatures all for ourselves. By blinking the Cyberman creature with either Conjurer's Closet or Thassa Deep Dwelling, they'll return face up from exile under our control. When using these blink effects, it's important to keep in mind that they have to say return to the battlefield under your control and not under its owner's control. Otherwise, you'll just be returning the creatures you stole. Marquise of the Black Rose is another way to keep stolen creatures for this same reason. If the Cyberman had a +1/+1 counter on it, when it dies it'll return face up back to your control. Same as with the blink effects, if you run any other reanimation effects, make sure it says returns to the battlefield under your control instead of under its owner's control. You can also steal creatures as they are with cards like Isidore, Relating Sculptor, Skik Alarmist, and Ugin's Mastery. Turning face down cards face up doesn't have them leave the battlefield, so if you turned a face down Cyberman face up, you'll get the original creature you stole, or one of your own creatures that was reanimated by Missy. Isidore can be activated at instant speed and as many times as you want, making him the best one. But Skirk Alarmist's only downside is tapping. While you have to sacrifice the face up creature, so long as it wasn't an artifact creature, you get it back as a face down Cyberman thanks to Missy anyways. Speaking of not being an artifact creature, another way to make the most of Missy's abilities is thanks to Nurok Transmitter, a very spicy card for this deck. Since Missy only steals non-artifact creatures as 2/2 Cybermen, you can essentially steal any creature if you turn any artifact creature into a non-artifact blue creature thanks to Nurok Transmitter's ability. So if you're planning to build Missy, don't forget Nurok Transmitter. Nurok Transmitter is not only an amazing piece of synergy in the deck, but it can also help with some of its combos. As previously mentioned, combo is one of the way the deck wins. You can also win by alpha striking with a horde of Cybermen, but combo is the main route to victory. Free sacrifice outlets like Goblet Bombardment, Viscera Seer, Ashnod's Altar, and Phyrexian Altar is one way to go about it. This setup is important since you're able to sacrifice a creature for value. But if you sacrifice a non-token creature for value, it returns face down as a Cyberman. If you turn it into a non-artifact blue creature with Nurok Transmuter, then you'll get the creature back. If you're able to loop this infinitely many times with Goblet Bombardment, that's already a win con. Phyrexian Tower and Priest of Forgotten Gods also provide sacrifice outlets, but require tapping to activate, so you can't do it indefinitely as with the previous 4. That being said, the tower doesn't take up a spell slot in the deck, and the priest also functions as mana acceleration along with interaction, since you can have your opponents lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature that we can hopefully steal as a 2/2 Cyberman. Going back to Goblet Bombardment, if we also controlled Missy and Nurok Transmuter, we'd only need a way to get that blue mana each time to go infinite. Enter Urza Lord High Artificer. Urza is already a busted card, and it's already amazing in this deck since we can tap down an artifact like a Mox Sapphire regardless of Summoning Sickness, so he's already got that great on his own. However, we can tap down an untapped Cyberman to generate 1 blue mana. That mana pays for Nurok Transmuter's ability, removing the artifact type from the Cyberman. Then when we sacrifice it to Goblin Bombardment, we deal 1 damage to an opponent's face, and the Cyberman will return again face down thanks to Missy. Rinse and repeat for infinite damage. This doesn't only work with Goblin Bombardment either. Perforce, God of the Forge, and Reckless Fireweaver hit the table whenever these Cybermen enter the battlefield. If we do this infinitely many times, then it's game over. So we can make the previous combo work with either of these and a free sacrifice outlet. As a bonus, we can also sink mana into Perforos if we're going aggro for lack of having the combo online yet. Marionette Master and Sir Conrad the Grim also do something similar, but when the Cybermen are dying instead of entering the battlefield. So instead of either Perforos or Reckless Fireweaver, either of these in play with the infinite combo online means that we can burn the whole table for the win. These cards are also amazing on their own since we can lose Cybermen while chump blocking or attacking. Giraput Ether Grid can also provide burn when we're getting infinitely many loops of Cybermen. However, we need 2 Cybermen to start with since we have to tap down 2 untapped artifacts in order to deal 1 damage to any target. So if we had 2 creatures looping in and out, we could just tap them first for damage. So this also helps us win in lieu of the previously mentioned 5 other ways. Cyberman Patrol also burns players but only when artifact creatures are blocked. Granted, this doesn't go infinite without infinite combat steps, which the deck does not have, but it's still good backup for the aggro plan. Especially since they can either block the Cybermen to lose 3 and potentially help us trigger any effects from them dying, or take the 2 damage. Now, it might seem like these combos might be too convoluted, but keep in mind that you don't have to go infinite. All these cards shown on their own are amazing in the deck, but when assembled you can go infinite. And there's so many different combinations of ways to build an infinite engine. However, the fastest way to build this engine is thanks to cards like Horde Ambusher, Dragon's Eye Savants, and Ruthless Ripper. As long as these creatures are on the battlefield face down, whether because they're manifested, morphed, megamorphed, turned into forest with Eudora, Cyberman with Missy, played with Illusory Mask, etc., you can turn them face up at any time as a special action for free. All you have to do is reveal a specific card from your hand. Of these, Ruthless Ripper is enough to provide a win con on its own with fewer cards. You only need Missy, a free sacrifice outlet, and a black card in your hand. Since turning it face up has an opponent lose 2 life is its own win con, so you might need only it, Missy, and something like Viscera Seer in play. You sacrifice the Ripper to the Seer, returning it as a face down Cyberman. Then you reveal a black card from your hand to morph it, making an opponent lose 2 life. Then you'd be right back where you started. A 3-card combo with a 4th in hand isn't that bad of a combo in casual to lesser casual settings. While these combos will win you the game when assembled, you can still do synergistic things in the meantime. Even before you go infinite, you might have enough setup to significantly affect all opponents until you beat them. For example, Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact, my 2 favorite mono black enchantments, do some serious work in this deck with all the sacrifice outlets. However, if that wasn't enough, if you're chump blocking with Cybermen or sacrificing them, or any other creatures for that matter, opponents will have to sacrifice creatures that'll hopefully return to us as face down Cybermen. These enchantments do so much work here. They reduce our opponent's forces while simultaneously building ours. The deck is still running non-synergistic interaction though, like All is Dust, Phyrexian Scriptures, and Their Name is Death. These are practically one-sided board wipes if we control a bunch of Cybermen. Then it's just a matter of protecting Missy to keep her around. However, if everything dies at the same time as she does, we still get her trigger, allowing us the massive post-board wipe board state. At least we can make her an artifact with Phyrexian Scriptures or Nurok Transmuter. If nothing else, overloading Cyclonic Rift will always be enough to clear the way for our massive army. Then again, this card is ubiquitous for a reason, regardless which. Chaos Warp is included for any indestructible creature. Even if the opponent reveals a better creature, we can just then destroy that one to seal with Missy, so it's all good. Besides interaction, we can also draw a ton of cards with our engines. Cards like Apheta Runecaster, Canoptic Spider, and River Kelpie do so synergistically with the Cybermen. Whenever we turn a Cyberman face up, the Runecaster draws us a card. Keep in mind that they have to be literally flipped. Reanimating or blinking won't work. The Spider will work that way though, since it triggers whenever a non-token artifact creature enters our battlefield. River Kelpie also triggers since the non-artifact creature first dies, hitting the graveyard, and then returns to the battlefield under our control as a face-down Cyberman, leaving the graveyard when it does so. Keep this in mind when playing these cards with Missy. Dark Prophecy, Grim Haruspex, Harvester of Souls, Liliana Dreadhorde General, and Midnight Reaper work regardless of which non-token creature died, whether artifact or not. Since the deck aims to make the most of not only killing our opponent's creatures but sacrificing our own, we should get plenty of death triggers in order to draw tons of cards. As a bonus, all of Liliana's abilities are relevant too, since she gives us sacrifice fodder and a global sacrifice effect. Another amazing death trigger effect in the deck is thanks to Fatal Grudge. Not only can we sacrifice a creature as an additional cost, but then opponents would have to sacrifice a creature when we do. On top of that, we draw a card. Sure, it's a one-time only thing for being a sorcery, but it only costs 2 mana to do so. Shimmer Dragon and Tesseract Betrayer of Flesh being card advantage without having to kill anything. Working similarly to Urza and Europro Aether Grid, we get value from tapping down untapped artifacts, of which we'll hopefully have plenty of Cybermen for. As for Tesseract, we have to get his emblem first. Fortunately, it's not that difficult to achieve since he only has to survive 2 whole turns around the table. Black Market Connections and Phyrexian Arena can also draw us cards but don't need us jumping hoops to do so. Just our life. As a bonus, we can also get Treasure and Changelings from the first one, but we don't have any effects that care about the Cybermen creature type, so we can skip on that one and save some life at least. Seagate Restoration and Valakut Awakening don't even take up slots in the deck if you aren't greedy and play them as lands if you need to. As a bonus, the blue one gives us an unlimited hand size when it resolves. Same with cards like Reliquary Tower, Thought Vessel, and Decanter of Endless Water, which are also in the deck. This deck draws us into a ton of cards. Having these in the deck is well worth it, especially since it's not green, so we need all the help we can, so these being Mana Rocks is very helpful. Soul Ring and Arcane Signet are the only other Mana Rocks in the deck though, with the rest of the Mana Acceleration being land-based, but we'll see those cards soon enough. While it might seem like the deck is super dependent on Missy, the interaction is still interaction regardless if we control her or not. It's just a bonus if we do. Yes, she's at the core of every infinite combo of the deck, but the pieces are still amazing on their own and in any combination of them. And in any case, we always have access to Missy for being our commander. That being said, Champion's Helm, Giant's Amulet, Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, Mithril Coat, and Darksteel Plate are included to protect her. The fact remains that she costs 6 mana to cast the first time, so losing a 6 CMC non-green commander even once can be quite harrowing. Which is why the deck is also running Fierce Guardianship, An Offer You Can't Refuse, Swan Song, Mana Drain, Counterspell, and Negate for its counter magic suite. Since all of our wins depend on our board, being able to protect ourselves from a board wipe we don't want resolving is super important, or against opponents' own counter magic. We can also recover any of these in response to drawing a card thanks to Mystic Sanctuary. We can fetch this at instant speed with 4 of the deck's 9 fetch lands. That way we can recover any counterspell already used since we're drawing cards so often. Speaking of recovery lands, Trenzalore Clock Tower works with Missy since she's a Time Lord. It takes a while to get to 12 counters, but it enters untapped and can tap for blue, so it definitely doesn't take up a slot in the deck. But we can then activate it to Time Twister, which is great. Speaking of lands and high CMCs, Cabal Coffers and Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth help us out with that. This combo should come as no surprise. While the deck isn't mana hungry, high commander tax can be an issue for Missy. We can also use this to help pay for other costs like morphing with Ixidor or pumping with Perforos. Last but not least is the other ways we deal with getting mana. Land-based ramp. Wayfarer's Bauble, Navigation Orb, and Burnished Heart, along with Bitterthorn, Nissa's Animus, Sword of the Animus, and Sword of Hearth and Home, get the job done and are pretty much a requirement in non-green decks like this one. The equipment here are combat phase dependent, but we have plenty of fodder to carry them. As a bonus, we can get Burnished Heart back after sacrificing if we made it into a non-artifact creature thanks to Murok Transmuter. I keep mentioning it, but Murok Transmuter is just basically the first card I put into this deck apart from Missy. It is that good. The rest of the deck is just the rest of the lands. Apart from the previously mentioned ones, the deck's running all 3 Shock lands, all 3 Snow Duels, all 3 Slow Duels, Xander's Lounge, Command Tower, and Ancient Tomb, as well as 2 of each basic land for the basic land rep effects in the deck. As with all of my deck techs, you can build your mana base according to your budget. Whether you include more expensive cards or even cheaper cards is up to you. You do you. This brew is just an idea of how to build around Missy. I love the potential she has for so many overlapping strategies. You can care about artifacts, combat, the Cyberman subtype, combo, etc. In this case, I focused on combo, but combat wins are also possible with the deck. If you're interested in the deck list of this spicy brew of mine, you can find a link to it down in the description. I would like to thank all my patrons for supporting me, and a quick shout out to all my higher tier patrons, the brewers, for their patronage. I'd also like to thank anyone using my TCG Player affiliate link. That also helps out the channel. I also want to thank any channel members. Your membership is greatly appreciated. And to everyone, thanks for watching this episode of The Brewery on the Commander Tavern. I am the Mad Kirby, happy brewing, and happy Halloween.